Welcome back to the Grazer 2297K revival. This is part 5, I think. Or maybe I can't count, but regardless. As you can notice there's a starter-sized hole at the front of the motor. So, we think that's bad. Because, and you guys should have seen the last video already, because I'll upload this in order, but those control cables are getting melted, so we're pretty sure that starter's shot. So while I'm waiting on that to get here, what I will do is put the deck together, but that's not going to be this video. This video, we have to get the gearbox and the last deck spindle ready, and then we can start putting the deck together. So as you can see, I've already got 2 spindles put together. I had the 3rd spindle housing right here. It had to be fixed, and it got cut off earlier. Took it into a machine shop so they could cut it off straight, and the guy just lathed it off, so that's why it looks like this. But it got welded back on. I found a piece of pipe, and I put it over. Dad welded it. We took it in, had it cut off this morning. And so now all I have to do is clean it up a bit, scrub it down, and paint it. So that will happen off camera, and while that is curing, we'll go over spindle disassembly, reassembly, part numbers, and then we'll see about getting to that gearbox. Alright, step 1 complete. Got that painted with the first coat. I'm probably going to do one more and then call it good. So let's step in here. Quick note about the paint I'm using. So on the first 2 spindles, I hit them with this rust gray primer, and then I painted them with this, which, I mean, here's the lid. So I also have this, which is gray. So if I did run out of either of these, which I don't think I'm going to, I can use this. Now, before people get all irritated with me because I'm not using the right type of paint, or I'm not painting in the right environment, or whatever, all this stuff was free. I have a whole box of free paint that I got, and it's been sitting for a while. Like, it sat in here all winter. Where is that box of paint? Right over here. So yeah, I got a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I got some of this, and I got some of that, and I have well, for some reason there was this in here, and I just got a whole box of all this free stuff, so I'm just going to use it. It had some gray in there, so that worked out that it was gray, but it doesn't turn out too bad. The original gray is more like those pulleys. Obviously, there's no Grazer gray, but it's, yeah, close enough. Nobody's going to see it. It's a deck spindle. It's going to be covered in mud and grass and crud. I doubt the paint even lasts a season. It might peel off by the end of the year when I check everything. You know, the paint might just peel off in a couple of runs. I don't know, but I'm doing something to try and stop it from rusting and deteriorating more. So that's just a quick note on the paint I'm using if anyone was curious. But yeah, it's a hodgepodge because, you know, it was all free, and I like free stuff, and it was still good even after sitting all winter out here in the shop, so I decided I'd use it. Alright, quick note on the gearbox. You have a before and after a certain pin number. You have a slightly different model of gearbox for the 52 and 62 inch deck. And the deck we have, I'm almost certain, is a 52. And no, I haven't measured it because I'm lazy. Not really much has changed on either of these gearboxes, but if you have the parts list, it will still tell you. So there's really not much to them. They don't list the pulleys on these, but that's okay because it's part of the mower deck, I think. But the big thing is, I just wanted to point out that there is a gearbox that is before a certain pin number and a different gearbox that is after a certain pin number. And if I cared to look at this for more than a couple seconds, I could point out some differences. Like right here, this shaft is keyed in the old gearbox, and in the new one, it is splined. So, you know, stuff like that, just kind of small differences. Just wanted to point that out. Now, the gearbox in question, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it still moves just fine. So there's nothing wrong with it there. I don't need to do anything internal. And by this point, you would probably say, well, Owen, shouldn't you just take it apart and look at it? No, I'm not going to. I'm going to continue to perpetuate my own stupidity and my faith that there is mostly nothing wrong with this mower, even though it's sat for 13 years. So I'm pretty sure it's fine. We'll put some grease in it, and I might bend that pulley back out. But obviously, the reason this is not going back on the mower right now is because of this pulley right here, and I've got a replacement part number and everything for it, but we'll get into that after I cut this off. I tried drilling the key out. It wasn't having it, either because the key is of a harder steel than I thought it was, or the drill bit's dull, or both. And then there's one, and where's the second one? Oh, maybe, nope, sorry, there it is, two. One, two set screws that hold it in, and I tried drilling one of them out, and it wasn't having it. So what I'm going to have to do is take the cutting wheel on the grinder and essentially take a slice off, and then I should be able to get it out without any problem. I can't put a puller on it because this doesn't have a divot in the center that the puller will center on and stay in place. If I try and pull it like it sits, that center screw is just going to dance around in here, and that's no good. So it's pretty well rusted on there. I know that, so I'm going to cut it off very, very delicately and see if I can remove it. Then we'll get into putting the new pulley on. Alright, well, I almost got the damn thing. I mean, it's been fighting me. I've been beating on it, and it just does not want to come off all the way. Miracle of miracles, I did not screw up the shaft all that bad, which I was worried about. Oh my gosh. My ears are ringing a little bit from all that damn hammering. Got a little bit left. Anyway, is that hot? How hot is that? Oh, it's not bad. So, yeah, I mean, there's just like hardly any play in the damn gearbox. So I'm not worried about it. I was trying to be careful not to mess up the seal here on the bearing, and I don't think I did. So we should be okay there. Just got to get it the rest of the way off. So I don't know whoever made that pulley, but they did a good job. And I don't know who put it on the gearbox, but it wasn't coming off. That's for sure. I don't think a puller was going to do it. Now, I don't know if you can see down in there, but I put PB Blaster on this to let it soak, and it doesn't look like it even penetrated down in there all that good. So this was a tight damn fit, and it rusted on there really, really good. So almost done, and then we can clean the shaft up, get the new pulley on. I got it off. I tell you what, it fought me every step of the way. It did not want to come out. I got it, that final little bit on here, and I had to put a chisel in to spread the pulley out a little bit, and then I was finally able to get it off. Man, I don't want to do that again. That was horrible. So let's go find the pulley that I ordered for the damn thing. Should be over here in this magic box. We don't need that. Nope. Is this it? This might be it. What's this one I haven't opened? That's line 1. Okay, so this is the replacement pulley. And it should... I mean, I'm going to clean the shaft a little bit. I think I've learned my lesson with the PTO clutch. But it's going to fit. All right. So this came from McMaster. I do not remember the part number, but it'll be down below. You can get this same pulley from Grazer Industrial, but it's about $10 more expensive. So, you know, it's up to you whether or not you want to buy it from there. Grazer does have brick and mortar stores around, so, I mean, it might be faster for you to just get it from them, order it, and go pick it up. But what's important is it is keyed, and it has one set screw instead of the two that the factory had. It's for a 1/2 inch V-belt, and it is a 4.5 inch diameter pulley, if I remember correctly. But that is what goes on the gearbox output shaft. So this is what sticks down in the deck and what drives the deck belt. So it's, I mean, none of this is complicated. So the next thing I'm going to do is get this old key out. I'm gonna have to file it down some. I will take some emery cloth, I'll shine that up real good, and we'll get this new pulley put on. Alright, key in. And this was sliding onto the shaft just fine. Oh, beautiful. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, there's a snap ring right here that acts as a stop. So we just shove the pulley on all the way. I like that. How much play do we have in it? Oh, we've got a little bit, but it's not bad. That should be okay. I guess if I start shearing keys off, that's an indicator that I should maybe replace that shaft. But for now, it should be just fine. I'm not worried about it. Generally, these keyed shafts don't cause problems. Okay, it's bigger than an 1/8. Alright, I thought it was... Must be 5/32. Yep. New keys. A little stiff. Now, I will say, the book does specify to use Loctite, which I'm not going to do, because that made it hell for me to get the other one off. Alright, well, I'm facing this head on, and I'm turning it, and there's gearbox play, but I'm not seeing any play in that key or in this pulley. It should be okay. It's not going to have that much strain on it, and if it starts slipping, it should slip at the belt, not here where it's keyed, but that should do nicely. And if I measured everything right, this should be almost exactly like it was from the factory. So the gearbox is pretty much done. I might, hang on here. What I might also do, if I get this adjusted right, I need to address this. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do it, but I want to widen this out a little bit. That's a bit too close together for my comfort, and you might also notice I've oiled this because they did say that the gearbox pulley would have to be aligned with the deck when I get everything on. I'm sorry, I'll have to align this with the PTO and the arm and everything. So I really want to see if it's going to work. Where are my pliers? Yeah, I'll just use these. Oh, another key that doesn't want to, or set screw that doesn't want to turn. Yeah, that's... Huh. Okay, well... Alright, well, I'm going to mess with that, and then we'll move on to reassembling a spindle. Okay, next day, and I had assembled, or attempted to assemble this last spindle yesterday, but it didn't turn out quite well on camera, and also, when I tried to put it together, in addition to the camera angle being wrong, the pulley was not fitting on here like I wanted it to, and it's hard to tell, but I think right here, this part of the keyway is off. I should have had the old key out, but this is a new piece of key stock, and you can see it's nice and square and straight, but on the old key, it was worn, like it was trying to spin on the old one with the old pulley on. It looked like it twisted a little bit and bent the key some, or started to shear it off. It wasn't quite right, and it displaced material on this side, and you cannot tell on camera. I got it filed down some, or maybe you can kind of tell, but that top bit up here is a little bit, it sticks out a little bit more than the lower part. So I need to get that file down. I've been working on it for the past hour, and I'm still messing with it. So when I get that done, I'll dry fit everything and make sure it's going to work, and then I'll show you how to put the spindle together, and I'll do it properly and make sure everything's in frame this time. But because I'd already driven the bearings and the spacer in, this is actually an excellent opportunity to show you how to get the spindle apart. So it probably is better that I messed it up the first time anyway. So give me a few minutes and we'll get to that. All right, rate my setup. I'm going to rate this a 4 out of 10. I'm going to give it points for ingenuity, but yeah, it's raining outside, and the wind's out of the south, so this is how I have to do it. Now, because I messed up yesterday, both with the camera angles and everything else, it wouldn't go together all the way, which made it look awkward. So to make things look better, we're going to do it again, but first I have to disassemble the spindle. This is the spindle assembly here. You can see we have the shaft, we have 2 heavy washers, bearing, the spacer, the other bearing, heavy washer, pulley, bolt with another heavy washer. And we'll get into all this in more detail as we go through it. But this is how it looks. So inside the spindle housing, you got the spacer, which sits centered on the bearings, as you can kind of see in there. So in order to get the bearings out, then you have to move that spacer over so that you can use one of the edges as a drift and drive out one bearing. Then you can flip the housing over, drive out the other bearing. So a lot of stuff depends on how tight the bearings are in the housing when you get it. In my case, all this is essentially new and good, so it should come out pretty easy, especially here. This is the side I'm going to drive out first because it should come out easier. Now, to drive bearings out, if you don't care about saving them, just use a drift. I have sucker rod that makes a nice drift. It doesn't bounce. And if you want to preserve the bearings somewhat, but still be able to drive them out, then you're going to have a socket about like so. This is an 1 3/8 and 3/4 drive. Now to drive the bearings in, I'm going to use that 1.5 and 3/4 drive because it is just right to get in there, right on the race of the bearing. You don't want to hit in the center because that's where the balls are at, because these are ball bearings. And you don't want to destroy that because that's your seal and that's bad. So you want to drive on the race. But if you're driving old bearings out, it doesn't really matter. You just got to drive them out however, because you're not going to reuse them. So we'll get into bearing numbers here in a minute. But for now, I'm going to get set up and we'll see about driving the bearings out of the spindle housing. Okay, I'm going to get set up in the vise here. That's what it should look like. What I did was I took this end in particular and I drove it in just a little bit with that 1.5 socket. That loosened the spacer up enough that I could get it drifted over like so. So now I'll take a punch on that and I should be able to drive that bearing out without any real problem. Now, because we don't have the most professional setup here, we have to do things the hard way. I'm going to ruin my paint job, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. So with that firmly in there, should be able to drive it out. It's going to want to move the spacer, so you're going to have to continually reposition it. I think we finally got that bearing to move. There we go. Bearing out. No worse for wear. Now, that was the easy part. There's the spacer. You will screw it up a little bit, hitting on it with that punch. I'll have to dress that lip because I don't think it's going to fit over the spindle shaft. Yeah, it's going to have to be dressed a little bit, but that's all right. So now we just flip it over in so like that, and then should be able to put that in. Almost out. All right, there we go. And the bearing's a little dirty because it hit the ground, but otherwise, still spins like it should, so we're all good. All right, before we get into reassembly, I just wanted to show you. The spindle bearing is a C46686, which is a Fafnir RA100RR, or a CSA 205-16, and that is the Carnell Sales SpinCo brand. That's the bigbearingstore.com. They are amazing with ball bearings. They've got every kind of ball bearing you could want. Not so much with tapered roller bearings, but they've got all the ball bearings you could ever want. And the new bearings come with these collars. I believe these bearings are intended for something a little different. On this Grazer, you don't need those collars. You can just throw them away or hang on to them for something else, but you don't need them. They do have to have that raised lip, like so. So that is your part number for that, and for the gearbox out, those are your dimensions. And it's for a 3/8 bore, 5-inch pulley. There's your McMaster part number. We'll get into the spindle for the pulley for the deck spindle here in just a minute. For now, I'm going to clean this up a little bit so it slides over the shaft, and then we'll start reassembly. All right, spindle reassembly, take 3, because I tried to do this earlier and I screwed some stuff up. So let's try this again. So this is the top. This is the part that sticks up that the pulley will go on top of. This is the end that sticks down through the mower deck that is in the dirt and the grass all the time. So my opinion, best way to do it is this. You do it however you want. Take the washer, or not the washer, gosh, I'm already messing it up, bearing, and get it in there. And we should be seated. Yep. Just because I forgot, there are stops that are in the spindle. The bearing will stop here when you get it in all the way. All right, well, now that we got that in, spindle shaft, heavy washer, very important. Now, a note about these, they need to sit inside the bore on the spindle housing because they're going to rest on this raised portion of the bearing so that when everything's put together, the washer is solid against the spindle shaft here, but it still can turn. That's why the bearings are that way. So we put the washer on, stick the spindle housing on, spins just fine, nice and free. Spacer, bearing. Now, here's where I messed up last time. This socket bottoms out on top of the shaft, and I spent a good portion this morning, like I said, making this straight and cleaning it up because I'd messed it up when I put the spindle together yesterday, and then when I did it again a couple hours ago, I did the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're just going to get started most of the way with the washer, and this end is a lot more loose because this is a new piece that was welded on, as you can see by the welding job. it'll hold. That's what matters, but it's not pretty. And that's why it looks like that, is because this is a replacement. So then we'll just finish it off with a punch, making sure to hit on the race of the bearing. Almost there. Now, if you did it right, then your spacer in the middle should stay put when you pull it off the shaft. Like so. Come on. There we go. You can kind of see it right in there. It should stay put. So, now that that is done, we take the other washer, and yes, I made a new one. So, put that on there. Then the pulley, align the keyways on everything. Should fit just fine. And there we go. Line everything up. New key. Get it in the right way. I had it set up earlier to where it was just, excuse my face or what little you can see of it. I got to be able to see what I'm doing. Yeah, that key just slides in there. Tap that into place. We need, where did I put it? Right here. 5/32 Allen key. Tighten the set screw down. There, now the pulley's not coming off. Now, the final stage is to put the heavy washer on top and a grade 8 3/8 by 24 by 1 3/4 inch. And that goes all the way in. It does not have to be grade 8, but the other one here was bent. So do that, and then just tighten everything down real good. And now we have the spindle assembly. Spins nice and smooth. No play. Everything's good. All right, so the spindle did have to come back apart a little bit. Not because I messed anything up this time, but because I cannot put the spindle housing into the deck with the pulley on. The pulley has to be off and it has to be installed separately. And so, realistically, this housing, just like this, will go into the deck. The spacer's still aligned, just had to make sure. Yeah, looks nice. So this will have to bolt into the deck first, then I can put this through, then I can put that in. So it is nice to have components that you can just slide together like this. Oh, yeah, grease zerts, almost forgot. That's what you want, that size. 1/4 inch by 28 threads per inch taper thread. Those are the right grease zerts for these, or grease fittings, or whatever you want to call them. But anyway, it is nice to have components that go together easy. You know, now up here on this pulley, I don't know if I can do it one-handed. You want it, I mean, it takes a little bit of effort to get it on, which is good. You want a little bit of friction between the shaft and the pulley here. You don't want to be able to grab this and just spin it free-handed, because if you could, then that means the key is doing all of the work to keep this from spinning. If you have a little friction, then the key just holds it. The key's not actually doing all the work of holding it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of important. I don't think I can get it off. Nope, I got to tap it out. So there's the bolt. See if I can get the right angle. Yep, there it is. Now you can see it. It's crooked. But it's good for hammering the shaft back out through the pulley so I don't tear up the new one. That's that pretty much does it for this video. Nothing else exciting. Just getting the gearbox ready, getting the last of the spindles ready. So with that one done and those two done, once I get the deck finished painting, that will be in the next video. But once I get done with the deck and it's and the paint's cured and everything, then I can start putting it together. Just waiting on a starter still for the mower. Should be here next week, and then I can actually start putting everything together. But for this video, this is as far as we're going. So anything I forgot to mention and all applicable part numbers and other links will be in the description down below. Thank you guys for watching. I'm going to get started painting the deck, and we'll just catch you in the next one.